Hey everyone, it's Strange Michael. I hope you're doing well today. I'm a little hoarse. I recorded for like 45 minutes. My previous two Hellraiser reviews and something before that. Anyway, I have a review for a movie from 2004. It's technically a TV movie from what I'm gathering here. I remember I saw the commercials for this in 2004 when my parents had just split up. My mom and I had just moved into my grandparents' house. And we would see advertisements on TV for this. I myself am a big fan of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Just the idea of that story, that concept, a headless horseman, pumpkin for a head, whatever variation we're talking about. And also because when I was a kid, I had a fascination with the idea of an enemy or a villain that had a pumpkin for a head. I don't know why. Maybe it was the Halloween decorations of the 90s, like some things I had hanging from the trees in my front yard. I don't know. But, or it could be Billy and Mandy's Jacked Up Halloween with Jack-O-Lantern from that. Hilarious if you haven't seen that before. Anyway, this movie I want to talk about is a very low budget piece of crap that I bought. I haven't seen it in forever. My mom and I watched the first 15 minutes years ago, and I think I've caught in bits and pieces on the Sci-Fi channel over the many, many years since it came out in 2004, which is what? Almost 20 years ago. Oh my god, I'm so old. Anyway, The Hollow. Look at this cover, man. Look at this cover and tell me this doesn't scream mid-2000s or late 90s, low-budget trash. Look at the pumpkin head, man. This is what always sold me on this. A couple of years back, I found this at FYE, and I bought it. I put it in the slip paper, what is it called, a disc sock? Yeah. Love these things for movies like this that I don't have much more than a nostalgic connection to. Anyway, you'd be surprised at the cast in this movie. We have Nick Carter from Backstreet Boys, Aaron Carter's brother. That shocked the hell out of me back then that he was in this, and watching it this time around, he's hilarious to watch because he can't act. Kaylee Cuoco, who played Penny on The Big Bang Theory, she's here. And she has nothing to do. She is literally just the pretty girlfriend character. And then my boy here, Kevin Zegers, who I've never heard of in my entire life. He was also in Goosebumps. And if you don't happen to know, I have a main channel called Michael Goosebumps Fan. He was the main kid in Let's Get Invisible's TV episode adaptation from the old 90s show. That kind of surprised me because I kept thinking he just looked like downgrade Zac Efron as I watched this movie. He looks just like High School Musical Zac Efron. And then as I watched it, I was like, I know this kid from somewhere. He's like a teenager here, but I knew him from something. And it was Goosebumps. To have these three leading this movie is a very weird thing. A very, very weird thing. So, let's see. Where do you even start with this? It's basically like a modern-day retelling of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Of course, it premiered on the Sci-Fi channel, like I said back in the day when I saw this. I remember my mom having this massive old big screen TV in her bedroom, which is the downstairs finished basement room thing at my grandparents' old house. And this is way back in the day, like I said. And I remember it had been such a rough year with the idea of my parents splitting up. My mom was depressed. I guess as a kid I was depressed. I was probably about 10 when this happened. Maybe not even 10 yet. I might have been like right at 9 and about a month or two away from becoming 10. Anyway, there's a lot of weird things happening in my life, a lot of changes, a lot of things that have affected me until this day of my life nowadays. And watching this and seeing the first 15 or so minutes with my mom on TV is a memory that I hold very fond and very dearly. And to have gone for so long until this year and actually watching this movie this time around, I don't hate it, but I would understand 1000% if other people would, because it's bad. It's a really, really bad movie. And even something like the Headless Horseman story in this movie, even as a modern-day retelling type of thing with kind of a legacy story, if you will. We'll get to that in a minute when I talk about the actual story itself. Everything about this is disappointing, including the pumpkin-headed villain. That's a massive disappointment. So where do we even start with this? Basically, we have a kid who's a descendant of Jonathan Crane. Apparently he has a different last name, like Cranston or something. He is a wonderful storyteller, and I think this kid tries his best with the script. When I say he's a wonderful storyteller, I mean, like, they gave him these fascinating stories about the history of Sleepy Hollow or whatever. I guess it's the town they're actually in here. To tell about, is it Ichabod? I think is the original character from the Disney one. I think it's Ichabod Crane from the story and everything from Washington Irving. I never read it, but I know the name and whatever. And I think he's supposed to be a descendant of what's-his-face, and Mr. Crane. And in this story, in this movie, he's just retelling things. He's kind of like a history buff of the area. Apparently he's not even from there, which was weird to me when Nick Carter says that. It feels like a TV movie, and it feels very, very low budget. It's not going to be for everybody. If you're a person like myself who has a very weird nostalgia for things like this that you saw like pieces of or maybe bits of as you grew up, and you're not really a fan of it, that's kind of what I am with this movie. I don't think it's going to appeal to most people the way it does to me, because I love Halloween, even though this film was filmed in like summertime. Some parts feel like fall, which is kind of nice. But the rest of it is a sloppy, bad movie. And not really engaging to begin with. It's just kind of fun to see Nick Carter trying to act, and this kid from Goosebumps, and Kaylee Cuoco, very early in her career. She's a really good actress, too. That's what I think kind of sucks about this. She kind of reminds me of Jennifer Aniston back in the day before she became the Jennifer Aniston all of us know and love, you know. Kaylee Cuoco is now at that point, like the peak of her career right now, which is a bummer. Big Bang Theory has ended, and no one's using her for anything, which kind of sucks. Anyway, most of this film is focused on these kids being in high school. What's-his-face? Nick Carter is like a bully, like a jock football type. The one kid wants to do fencing. What public school has a fencing course? He does that instead of playing football to impress his dad, who was also the stepfather in the Santa Claus with Tim Allen. When I saw him, my brain kind of melted a little bit. And I don't think I knew he was in this. That kind of blew my mind. Kaylee Cuoco is kind of his crush, the main kid's crush that he has an interest in. And he's trying to get with her, and that's it. That's really all I have to tell you about story. The Headless Horseman is back. There's also a homeless guy in this who is absolutely hilarious. He's a horrible actor. He is hilarious to watch. He talks like a pirate. He says words like ye, like Y-E, all the time. I love it. He keeps harassing this poor main kid from Goosebumps and saying that he's a descendant of whatever, and he keeps calling him teacher because he's a historian type and he likes history of Sleepy Hollow. He keeps calling him teacher. Teacher, where were ye? You know, saying things like that throughout this whole movie. It was a lot to process at 3 a.m. in the morning as I watched this tonight. It's a very weird movie. To be as low budget as it is, it's fairly, to me, for my particular interests in Halloween, in fall, in October, in that weird look of fall-time movies, even though this one has a lot of a summertime feel to it sometimes. I find it watchable. I could understand 100% if you don't, and if most people wouldn't. It's just me being nostalgic and sentimental. Because I love my mom, and that was a weird time in my life, and seeing things like this is such a weird change in my life. It all sticks with me. I don't know why. It's kind of oddly comforting, because I miss when low-budget movies were made like this. You know, they weren't like John Wick Part 1, when they're considered low budget. It's low budget by modern day standards of having $500 million Lord of the Rings movies and stuff, but for this, it was a different time, and it was kind of nice and kind of different, and the Sci-Fi Channel was great. That was around the time still where I was seeing things like Gremlins for the first time. I was seeing things like Dolly Dearest for the first time, I believe. It was a great time to be a fan of the Sci-Fi Channel, and I think it was when they still spelt it S-C-I-F-I, with a hyphen in there. It wasn't S-Y-F-Y yet. I don't like new Sci-Fi Channel. Not as good. Not as good at all. At least they made the Chucky TV show, though. That's great. That's great stuff. Where do we even start with this? Do you expect the writing to be bad? Because it is. You know, the acting is bad. Everybody's trying, and they do not succeed at all. Again, it's looking very cheap as a movie. Nothing really special in any way, shape, or form. I kind of like the only real practical effect, even though there's a lot of CGI in this, in the sense of like the glowing of the eyes of the pumpkin head thing on the Headless Horseman, who literally never takes his head off ever. He just walks around with a pumpkin mask on all the time. The Headless Horseman looks very, very budgeted. When you see him up close and see like the costume and stuff, it looks like a cheap Party City type of thing, like embarrassingly so. He carries a sword, rides a horse, tries to decapitate people. And I'll tell you, some of the decapitations are very clearly like Photoshop practical effects, like CGI where we just blurred out somebody's head missing. The stuff like that, I'll be honest with you, I didn't hate. I think it adds a charm to this movie that the rest of the movie does not have. But for an hour and 20-minute runtime, it is so dull. It's such a dull movie. It tries to have a kind of tension here and there, and it, again, being direct-to-video, being direct-to-TV, whatever, it can't do it. The music here is awful. That's really all I have to say. This movie's really bad, but I like certain things about it enough to give it more of a positive review than most people would. Not that it's going to be anything great, not that I recommend it to anybody, except for people who have my kind of interest of a pumpkin-headed villain, like from Jack-O-Lantern, from Billy and Mandy. If you like that kind of thing, you're not getting the exact type of thing here, but if you like that kind of thing, it might be up your alley more than most people's. If I had to rate The Hollow, starring Nick Carter or whatever the other kid from Goosebumps was, and Kaylee Cuoco on a 5-star basis, I can't even talk, I'm so tired. It's such a late night. I've watched like 3 movies today. If I had to rate this film on a 5-star basis, I'd give it like a 2 out of 5 stars, mainly because I love seeing Nick Carter very much try to act. And if you listen to the song on the finale of this in the credits, that's Nick Carter, and it's awful. It's really bad. To be a Backstreet Boy, he got put on the back burner. Anyway, 2 out of 5 stars for me. It's the best of a movie. Do I recommend it? Hell no. Do you think you'll like it? Probably not. I don't think you'll like it. Anyway, what do you guys think about The Hollow? Do you have any kind of positive memories about this at all? Do you guys remember this when it came out? I remember watching this at nighttime. Sun had just went down and everything. My battery's about to die. I need to stop talking. God bless you guys. Happy Halloween. It's coming up very soon. God bless you. I'm just talking now. Goodbye.